What's up, guys? We're back with another Jordan Peterson reaction. This time we're talking about how the West has lost faith in masculinity. Let's jump right into it. First though, please, I'd like you to click like and subscribe below so that you can keep supporting this channel and this channel can keep working. Thank you guys very much. It means nothing to you, but everything to me. And let's get going right now.
And how would you summarize why men are in crisis now?
I think it's because in a deep level, the West has lost faith in the idea of masculinity. Now, that's no different than the death of God. It's the same thing. And Nietzsche knew what the consequence of that would be. I mean, that's most of what he wrote about, you know, and so you'd say, well, the divine symbol of masculinity has been obliterated. Well,
Interesting. The divine symbol of masculinity has been obliterated. So what's curious is that Christianity is a religion that imagines God as the father, a masculine figure. There are religions out there that don't do that. I forget what it was called, the Tao Te Ching, if you control F search a PDF of it and you search father, there's nothing. I think if you search mother, I think there's a lot more. But if you search father, there's nothing. Do that for the Bible, oh man, thousands of appearances for sure.
so then what do you expect? What's going to happen? That means masculinity is going to become weak. And especially if the symbol is also denigrated, right? Which it definitely is. So what that means is that the ideal that man could aspire to is denigrated. And well, then with your ideal in tatters, you're weak. That's definitional. So I think the reason that men have been responding positively to my thinking, let's say, is that I don't buy any of that. I like the masculine spirit. It's necessary, and it's not fundamentally carnage and pillaging. It's not fundamentally rape culture. You know, it's not fundamentally world destroying. And all of those things all of those aspersions have been cast upon it. That's partly the guilt of Western society for technological progress even. And those are reasonable challenges to be set before men, but they're not reasonable accusations to swallow without criticism.
What is a man?
Interesting. There's a lot going on there. So often when we think of traditional masculinity, we think of like 1950s cold James Bond style masculinity, emotionless, cold, not expressive. And there's actually ideas of masculinity that go way older, way further back than modernity, right? And so I think there's this idea of masculinity that exists today that's kind of distorted. It's like a weird version of masculinity that isn't the like full and fulfilling and satisfying and complete and integrated masculinity that people would do best to aspire to. And it seems to me that throwing out masculinity without the nuance around the discussion about what masculinity you're talking about is absurd. You need to ask the question, are you trying to make people 1950s James Bond masculine, or are you trying to make people a deeper masculine, a more integrated masculine, something that is reflected in the mythology of the past that Jordan Peterson talks about in some of his lectures? That's a good question.
Masculinity we can aspire to?
Well, it's responsibility fundamentally, and it's to put it symbolically is that your responsibility is to incarnate the spirit of the Logos. That's your responsibility. That's your role in life. And that is independent to some degree in whether or not you accept the idea of a transcendent and eternal reality. Now, I'm not making a case for that or against that. Those things are beyond human understanding. But we know what happens if people act poorly, if men act badly. We know what happens. We know that the world turns into something that's so close to hell that the difference is trivial. We know that. That's the story of the 20th century. So we should learn that lesson. And what that lesson is pick up the world on your shoulders and walk forward. Pick up the world with all of its trouble, with all of its suffering, with all of its evil, and move forward with it. And in bearing that burden, learn that you're the sort of creature that can bear that burden and therefore deserving of respect. That's identification with the logos. And I've never encountered an idea that's better than that, because it's so not naive. It's the opposite of naive. It's like there's terrible evil and there's terrible suffering. It's bottomless. But the human spirit is capable of voluntarily taking that on as a challenge. Well, it's worth a try.
And that's where we get meaning.
Yes, exactly. That's the positive meaning. That's the positive meaning. That's the world affirming meaning, and that's self-esteem, let's say, which is very poorly characterized. It's very shallowly characterized because it usually doesn't involve any sense of responsibility. But it's obvious. It's obvious in some ways. If you look at the people that other people spontaneously respect, unless they've become unbelievably cynical, it's the people who adopt responsibility and deal with it competently.
Ask this question. Who do you admire? Who do you admire? In fact, comment that below. Why not? Who do you admire? And just without thinking too much, just write a list of people that come to mind, of people that you admire, people you look up to. And then ask yourself, are they responsible? Have they adopted responsibility? Have they been forthright? Are they honest? Are they action takers? Do they stand by their word? See what happens.
So it's not a mystery that would be what you could aspire to. Now, it gets undermined if you feel that force of responsibility is the raping and pillaging patriarchal culture that's despoiling the natural environment and that's equivalent to a cancer. Well, no.
No, fuck that. Fuck that shit. We're not about that. We're not about that negativity. We're about responsible masculinity, responsible action, taking care of the world, taking care of nature, taking care of others, taking care of yourself first, cleaning your room, and then it going from there. I love this man.
I don't buy that.
That's right. That's right. Oh, I love this guy. Such a positive message. The important part about the positivity of Jordan Peterson is that if you're someone who's dealt with a lot of suffering in your life, as he said, an infinite bottomless pit of terrible tragedy and suffering and malevolence, then this is a message that'll really resonate with you because it's hope. Instead of just the negative meaning of life, all the things that are calling you to action because they're horrible, now you can have a positive meaning, a call to action towards the better, a better place in life, a better future. Now, what's interesting is at some point you kind of need to let go of needing that tragedy and malevolence to be your source of meaning, or else you kind of end up generating it. Like if you just need a horrible burden to bear on your shoulders to get you through life, then you're just going to keep finding reasons to bear a horrible burden. And at some point you have to let that go. You have to move on past that. I think that's the thing that's the next level of Jordan Peterson's message. It's that there's this integration, this growth that's on the level of, say, the personality. He talks a lot about personality, and it goes deeper than that. It goes closer towards the soul or the spirit. But to take that next level, to really experience spiritual growth, you need to go to different level concepts. And I think that's where he's on the cusp. He said in the Bible, there's kind of a battle between the supremacy of truth, which is the logos, proper speech, not lying, or at least avoiding, don't lie, or at least, so I forget what the rule is. Comment that below. There's a battle between truth and love in the biblical stories. And I think that's the next level. That's a paradigm shift that I see that Jordan Peterson's on the cusp of. So if you've enjoyed Jordan Peterson's stuff and you've kind of gotten to a good place in life, look into that. Consider the possibility of love being the answer. Look into deeper, even deeper sources of growth of spirituality. That could be the books that he references. You could read the New Testament or the Bible, the Old Testament. Why not? I've got one. It was awesome. Read scripture. Read old mythology. Read Iron John by Robert Bly. Check it out. So that's the video right now. Thank you so much for watching. Please click subscribe below, click that like button, comment, you know what it is, and I'm coming back with more. I'm recording another video right after this. We've got more content coming out. Thank you.